In a time gone by, there was once a poor farmer who lived in a remote village. He worked hard in the fields from daybreak, and yet could not earn enough to feed his family. He was very tired and had given up on life. One day, a stranger passed by his farm and asked the farmer, "You don't look very happy. Is everything all right?" The farmer replied, "No, I am not. I work very hard, but my children are still hungry. I don't know what to do." The stranger told the farmer, "I am a jewelry merchant. I travel the whole country buying and selling gold, and I make a lot of money. A man's fortune does not lie in his backyard. It lies far from his home." That night, the farmer decided to sell his house and farm, and with the money he received, he started his travels. He went to the nearest town and bought gold jewelry. He then walked to the next town and tried to sell it. This went on for months. All the while, the man kept losing money, as he was not skilled in recognizing good gold from inferior gold. Over time, the man lost all of his money and was forced to return home, even more desperate than before. Now he didn't even have his farm and house. He had lost everything. He realized that he should not have blindly followed the stranger's advice. In the meantime, the man who had purchased his farm had started working on the land. One day, while plowing the fields, he saw a shiny object in the mud. He picked it up and saw that it was a piece of gold. Frantically, he started digging up his farm and soon discovered a gold mine right in his backyard. Moral of the story: you do not have to travel far and wide to seek answers. With the right thinking tools, your mind has the ability to find the solutions. Critical thinking is a framework and methodology to help guide your thinking process.
Hi, in this episode, we will be looking at attempts to persuade you to do something. Let's look at this advertisement. The objective of the advertisement is very clear. It wants you to buy the ice cream. It says it's got the best tasting ice cream in the world. Buy one today. Very clear. Next advertisement. Same situation. Color your life. Be bright. Be bold. Buy this lipstick today. Both the advertisements have one very clear objective: to persuade you to buy the product that's being advertised. Let's look at this poster. This is a poster for a man who is standing in an election, and he says, "Vote for me. I will change your life." His objective is very clear. He wants you to accept his point of belief, his point of view. It's the same situation with this poster. It's a job advertisement persuading you to join the Navy, giving you all the benefits that you will get if you join the Navy. See the world, travel, get paid while you travel, learn new skills. The objective of this poster is also the same as the previous one: to get you to change your belief and adopt the belief that is being put forward, to persuade you to adopt their point of view. Just like this magazine article, which says that coffee is better than tea, says that there is new research giving evidence that coffee is better than tea. What is the objective of this magazine article? No different from the next one, which says that experts now give advice that babies below the age of 1 should be taught computer skills. What's the message behind this advertisement or this news article? It's exactly the same, which is to persuade you to accept their point of view or their belief. It's an attempt of persuasion. Every single day, we are bombarded with countless attempts to persuade us, through advertisements, through other documentary evidence, through photographs, and various other media. The objective is simple. Either buy the product we are selling you, use the service we are providing, or believe what we are saying. We have to use critical thinking when we are evaluating these attempts to persuade us. Should we allow them to persuade us? Should we accept their point of view or reject it? That is what we have to evaluate. We have to make a reasoned judgment based on the evidence that has been provided to us. How do we do that? Look at this chart. This chart summarizes attempts to persuade you with two different forms. One that come with reasons. Reasons are given in order to persuade you, and the other without reasons. Let's look at the first one. When there is an attempt to persuade you and there are reasons provided. This is called an argument. An argument consists of three components. There are reasons to persuade you, there are assumptions which are underlying the whole argument, which we will discuss briefly, and finally there's a conclusion. Let's look at these three in turn. The conclusion is the final point that is being directed to you. This is what the source wants you to do. Believe what is being told to you, buy the product or the service, or do something that the persuader wants you to do. That's the conclusion. The reasons support the conclusion. They influence us to accept or reject the conclusion. They persuade us, not just explain, but they persuade why we should accept the conclusion. The third one, the assumptions, are the missing steps in the argument that we have to fill in ourselves in order for the argument to make sense. Recall that an argument here is not an argument between two people. An argument here is a technical word or phrase in critical thinking that means an attempt to persuade you. Any attempt to persuade you is called an argument. And an argument, any argument, has these three components. Let's use examples to illustrate our points. Let's have a look at this advert. It's an advert that is offering you a job in a fast food franchise. Looking for a part-time job? We offer you what others don't. High wages, free meals, free transportation, free uniform, and all the other things stated in the advert. What's the objective? Simple. Come and work for us. We are better than our competitors. Don't go to them, come to us. That is the conclusion that the advertiser wants you to walk away with. What are the reasons given in the evidence? The reasons which are stated in the advertisement: free meals, free transportation, free uniform, and all the other host of things that are mentioned there. Should you be persuaded? Same golden rules apply. Ask, what is the motive? What's the expertise? What's the ability to observe? Absolutely the same golden rules whenever you are evaluating any attempt to persuade you. Now let's look at another part of an argument. Look at this advertisement. It says that there is nothing better than vitamin C to fight flu. Then it says, enjoy Eden oranges for a healthy lifestyle. So there are two parts to the advert. First part says, vitamin C, best thing in the world to fight flu. Second part says, enjoy Eden. Eden is the brand. Enjoy Eden oranges for a healthy lifestyle. Do you see something missing? There is a link between the first part and the second part which is not specified in the advertisement. There is an attempt to persuade you to buy the oranges. But the link between the evidence given in the first part and the second part is not there. The missing step is called an assumption. If you recall, there are three parts of any attempt to persuade you. The reasons, which we discussed just now, the assumptions, which is what we're talking about now, which both lead up to the conclusion. An assumption is a missing part, it is not stated. In this example, you do not come to the agreement that the assumption is vitamin C helps you fight flu and oranges contain vitamin C. If you don't make that missing step, the whole argument doesn't work. You have got to make this assumption that oranges contain vitamin C. Therefore, I will be able to fight flu if I eat oranges. That first assumption is missing. Then there is a second assumption, which is again, of course, unstated. Assumptions are always unstated. You make assumptions in your mind. The second assumption is that the Eden brand of oranges contains vitamin C. Where does it say that in the advertisement? It doesn't. Where does it say in the advertisement that oranges contain vitamin C? It doesn't. If it doesn't state it, but is required to make the conclusion, it's an assumption that you have made. Has the advertiser made this assumption for you? No. You have made it in your mind. Is the advertisement misleading, therefore? No, it is not misleading because it has not made any assumptions for you. You have made the assumptions.
A wise man makes his own decisions. An ignorant man follows public opinion.
In short, when there is an attempt to persuade you, if it has reasons, we call it an argument. Reasons, together with assumptions that you have made in your own mind, lead to a conclusion that the person wants you to adopt. This is when there are reasons. It's an argument. If there are no reasons in an attempt to persuade you, then that is called an opinion. An opinion is still an attempt to persuade you, but no reasons are given. Let's look at opinions now. Let's look at this example. The person says, lemon juice is better than lime juice. You should drink lemon juice instead. So one person is telling another person, lemon juice is better than lime juice. So drink lemon juice. Let's look at the statement. What's the conclusion? The conclusion is one to persuade you to drink lemon juice. Don't drink lime juice, drink lemon juice. That's the conclusion. What's the reason given? The reason is lemon juice is better. Is that a reason? No, it's not a reason. Because it is not backed by any evidence, we cannot consider this to be a reason. It is therefore an opinion. This is that person's opinion, that lemon juice is better. Does it mean it's right? No. As we have seen in other episodes, opinions are the personal expressions of people. Sometimes they have nothing to do with what's right and what's wrong. Nothing to do with what's true and what's false. Two different things. Whenever there is an attempt to persuade you without a reason, look for it to be an opinion. If it is an opinion, it is not backed by evidence. If it is not backed by evidence, should you accept that persuasion? Should you be persuaded? Go back to your golden rules. What is the motive of this person? Is the person with ability to observe? Does he or she have the relevant expertise? The three core issues we have covered in previous modules. Let's look at another example. Here the man is saying, you really should not buy a house in that residential area. It is not good. Why don't you look elsewhere instead? Let's examine the statement. What's the conclusion that the person is putting forward? Remember, this is an attempt to persuade you. What's the conclusion? The conclusion is exactly what he says. Don't buy a house in that residential area. What's the reason? None. He says it is not good. Is that a reason? Clearly it's not. This is an opinion. Reject it or accept it based on the motives of who is putting forward the argument. Let's look at yet another example. You will regret dealing with that travel agent. My brother told me that they are the worst he has ever encountered. Conclusion? Don't deal with that travel agent. Reason? My brother says it's the worst that he has ever encountered. Is that a reason? Or is that his opinion? That's an opinion of one person. Learn to differentiate attempts to persuade you, the ones that have solid reasons based on evidence, and the ones that are based on opinion. In real life, we see this happening often in advertisements. Look at this advertisement here. It says, the brand Zero is the best watch I have ever owned. You should buy one too. Now the person in the advertisement is a celebrity. It's a famous person. And a famous person is saying, this is the best watch I have ever owned. You should buy one too. Conclusion, go out and buy that watch. Reason, I own it. I'm a celebrity. I'm famous. If it's good enough for me, it's good enough for you. Is that a reason or an opinion? It's obvious what it is.
Knowledge is the treasure, but judgment is the treasurer of a wise man.
Let's recap. When there are attempts to persuade you to do something, if there are reasons given in the attempt to persuade you, it's an argument. Whenever you see an attempt like this, look out for assumptions which are not written down, but which you make in your own mind. Because then the error is yours, not the advertisement's. If there are no reasons given in an attempt to persuade you, it's an opinion. When it's an opinion, apply the golden rules again. What is the motive of the person who wants to persuade you? Does he have the relevant expertise? Has he got the ability to observe? Now let's look at evidence that does not want to persuade you, that is not designed to persuade you, but yet nevertheless is evidence. What is it? And how do you differentiate attempts to persuade you versus attempts not to persuade you? When there is no attempt to persuade you, there are two types of evidences. The first is called an account, and the second is called an explanation. Let's look at each one in turn. An account is best illustrated using an example. Look at this example. It's a news article about a music festival, saying that thousands of music lovers attended this music festival. As you can see, there is no attempt to persuade you. The news article is not attempting to sell you anything. It doesn't want you to convert your belief into a belief that it is projecting to you. It is merely an account of what happened that night. It's a description only. There is no conclusion, and there is no attempt to persuade. This is an example of an account. Let's look at another news article. Survivor to return home. It says that the survivor of last week's bus crash is now out of hospital and will return home today. The rest of the people in the bus were killed, and this is the sole or the only survivor. Is this news article trying to persuade you to do anything? No. Therefore, there is no conclusion. It is just a description of something that has happened. Third example. Survivor advises against bus travel. So the sole survivor that we looked at in the second example is now advising the public not to travel by bus. In an interview, he said that his survival is a miracle and he is extremely sad that none of his fellow passengers survived. Now, what is this? Is this an account? Is this an argument or is this an opinion? You should know enough of critical thinking to make that decision by now. Let's continue this example here. In this news article, that sole survivor now says that he is going to sue the bus company because he says, as the news article shows, he says that there is enough evidence to show that the company's buses are not safe to be on the roads. They should be taken off the roads. Their brakes do not work. This is the evidence out of some investigation that was done. What is this news article? Is it an account? Is it an argument? Is it trying to persuade you to adopt a certain point of view? Or is it an opinion? You should know enough of critical thinking by now to decide what this is. Now, the other form of non-persuasion is an explanation. An explanation is when reasons for something that's happened are given. There is no conclusion because there is no attempt to persuade you. And an explanation is given as to why something happened. Take this example. News article says, airport chaos. Dozens of flights were disrupted last night because of heavy thunderstorms and very strong winds. To make matters worse, the news article says, to make matters worse, visibility reduced dramatically. Is there an attempt to persuade you to do something? No, there is no attempt to persuade you. This is an explanation giving you reasons why there was chaos in the airport last night. This is an explanation. It's different from an account. Let's look at another example of an explanation. Maths results improve. The Minister of Education said yesterday that the exam results for maths have been steadily increasing over the last 3 years. There are many reasons for this improvement, he said, but the main ones highlighted include better teacher training and better facilities, along with increased mathematical literacy in students at an earlier age. Long sentence. Is there an attempt to persuade you to do something, to buy something, to believe in a certain point of view? No. It is giving you reasons why maths results have improved. This is an explanation. In conclusion, evidence comes in two forms. The first form tries to persuade you to do something. The second form does not persuade you. The first form that does try to persuade you comes in two further categories. One, with reasons, as the chart here shows. If there are reasons attached, it's an argument. Second, without reasons. An attempt to persuade you without reasons is an opinion. If there is no attempt to persuade you whatsoever, it's either an account, which is a description only, no conclusion, or it's an explanation. Reasons only, no conclusion, no attempt to persuade you.